Now, if you were wondering which festival of the Wheel of the Year is the sexiest, the answer is definitely Beltane. In this video, I'll give you an overview of what Beltane is and where it originated from. I'll also go over some spiritual themes of this particular festival, as well as some practical tips for how you can celebrate it in your own spiritual practice. Sound good? If so, just boop that like button and let's go. Hiya lovely. If we've not met before, I'm Shirley from Sacred Huntress, and I help people already on their spiritual journey to explore healing, self-care and spiritual purpose. So let's dive into the festival of Beltane by starting with the origins. In terms of the Wheel of the Year, Beltane is a cross-quarter point, so it's a fire festival. And if you're not 100% sure what that means, I've got another video which goes over the structure of the Wheel of the Year in much more detail. I'll put the link in the description box below just in case you want to check that out at the end of this video. Beltane marks the midpoint between the spring equinox and the summer solstice. The word Beltane itself is derived from the ancient Celtic for bright fire or sacred fire. And the ancient Celts would create large communal bonfires at this time of year, and people would jump over the bonfire as an act of purification and also to enhance their fertility. And they'd take part of the fire home to light their hearths so that they could reinvigorate the energy within their homes. You might be wondering why it's the sexiest festival, but if you think about when Beltane falls in the northern hemisphere, it's a time when the sap is rising in the trees, and everywhere you look, the natural world is green and colourful and bursting with new life. It was believed that the horned god and the fertility goddess mated to manifest the fertility of the earth itself. And at Beltane, our ancestors reenacted this wild sexual union between the god and the goddess at Beltane in something that was called the Greenwood marriage. Now, the Greenwood marriage was a time at Beltane when our ancestors were liberated from the restrictions of their ordinary day-to-day marriages, and they could spend the night in the forest to enjoy wild sexual union with anybody that they chose. And any children that were conceived during the time of the Greenwood marriage were considered to be particularly blessed. In terms of the Wheel of the Year, it's interesting to note that Beltane falls directly opposite the festival of Samhain. Now, Samhain is considered a festival of death, and Beltane is a festival of sex. And at both of these points in the Wheel of the Year, the veil between the worlds is considered to be thin, particularly thin. And at Beltane, the mischievous fairy folk joined the Beltane celebrations. The traditional maypole symbolically represents the interweaving of the masculine and feminine energy. Now, over the years, the church shifted the focus from the wild and wanton sexuality of Beltane towards a much more virginal and chaste symbol of the May Queen around this time of year. So let's move on to the spiritual themes of Beltane. Beltane is undeniably a festival of sex. It's a festival of pleasure and a festival of joy. You know, we celebrate new life at this time of year. And it's also a time where we honour and acknowledge opposites. So the masculine and the feminine, the internal and the external, the conscious and the unconscious. So that's an interesting theme to sit with at this time of year as well. The time between Beltane and the summer solstice is when the sun is at its strongest, and we too are in a consciously active, expressive phase. When we look around at the green returning to the land, the longer days, the flowers in bloom, and when we consider the happy birdsong which fills the skies, we realise it's a life-affirming time of pleasure and joy. So they're the origins and the spiritual themes of Beltane. Let's move on to the practical celebrations. This is a festival to get creative with your celebrations. It's definitely a time to be guided by your wild urges and your instincts as well. Now, considering the Greenwood marriage of our ancestors, I would urge you to take your personal safety very seriously when you're thinking of celebrating in a wild and wanton way in the woods. But just be guided by your inner knowing and be guided by your own inner wisdom as well. Figure out a way to honour your sexual self. Maybe dress in green to celebrate the fertility of the earth. You may also like to take an offering to the woods to honour the spirits of the land and the spirits of the forest and the spirits of the fairies as well, as this is a time when the veil is thin between the worlds. You may like to enjoy a massage or light candles or light incense so that you can really tune in to your own sensuality at this time of year. That's a beautiful way to honour the traditional spirit of Beltane. You may like to consider refreshing your altar with springtime flowers. And as with all of the fire festivals, you may like to consider building a sacred fire. As Beltane is a time where we celebrate manifestation, you may also like to consciously notice what you're manifesting in your life right now and refresh your goals if that feels right, or get yourself back on track towards your original goals for the year if that feels more aligned. Ultimately, Beltane is a time of pleasure and joy. So identify a simple thing that brings you joy and do that. Which of these celebrations resonates with you most? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've got any other ways that you like to celebrate Beltane or any other suggestions I've just popped into your mind, then share those in the comments below because I'd really love to read them. Beltane is a sexy festival and it can really be a lot of fun. So if you're interested in the Wheel of the Year, one of these videos may just help to shed more light on the subject. Bright Beltane blessings to you, sweet souls. I'll see you in the next video.